Breaking news into Texas Tech athletics. The Texas Tech men's basketball team has their new head man, and it'll be UNT basketball coach Grant McCasland. Hey, how's it going, everybody? I am RC Maxfield here for the latest breaking news when it comes to Texas Tech athletics. Join the largest Texas Tech community here on YouTube, right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel, and just hit that sub button. All right, let's jump into it as Grant McCasland will be the next head men's basketball coach for Texas Tech athletics. And listen, I've talked about Grant McCasland in a few videos, and I've been warming up to him. At first, I was looking at the pace of play metrics, and I was not excited. They are dead last in the country in Division I basketball, 363rd out of 363 teams in pace of play, right? And how many possessions they get per game. And I just didn't like that. But you look at the defensive side, and that's where things get a little bit better for Grant McCasland. And I want to talk about that first and foremost. But before we get into that, leave me your one-word reaction to Texas Tech hiring Grant McCasland to be the next Texas Tech head men's basketball coach on the pinned comment below. All right. So, again, I've talked about Grant McCasland and his defense, and truly it's been phenomenal virtually every year he's been at North Texas. But this year and last year have really just taken it to another level for the Mean Green. This year in Denton, they were 8th in effective field goal percentage against, right, and 24th in adjusted defense, according to Bart Torvark. And, well, they match up with Ken Palm as well on that front. But some interesting stuff in the last 10 games of the season for UNT. They ranked 31st in offensive efficiency, 17th in defensive efficiency, and 13th overall in the country, according to Bart Torvark. And you look at what Grant McCasland has done and kind of his background. He won at Midwestern State as a head coach. He won at Arkansas State in the Sun Belt Conference. And then the last 6 years at North Texas, he's won every single year there. In these past 2 years in the regular season, they have combined for 52 wins and 14 losses. Overall, in his coaching career, he's 205 and 89, nearly a 70% winning percentage. He's a winner. All right, that's what he does. He knows his identity. He knows what he's good at, right? He goes out there and he just simply dominates on the defensive side. And that's exactly what you want if you're Texas Tech, right? That's where you built your identity. And I think that that's where Grant McCasland really fits in to what West Texas is, the foundation that Texas Tech has created, and really a few other points as well. But just those two main ones, you think about it. He worked at Texas Tech in the late 90s, early 2000s. He was there in an administrative role. He was the director of operations before he went out and became a head coach, assistant coach, at Northeastern Junior College. He then went to Midland for 5 years. Again, West Texas ties. He has those. Then he went to Midwestern State. Then he was a coach at Baylor as an assistant for 5 years under Scott Drew. He then went to Arkansas State for a season before returning to the Lone Star State and Denton to be the head coach of the Mean Green. And when you look at what he does, right, again, defense is the main thing. There's no doubt about that. And you need an identity. And that's exactly what made Texas Tech great when they were at that Elite Eight Final Four level, was their identity and their defense, that street dog mentality. That might trigger some people. I hope not, though. But I think that that's what Texas Tech needed. They needed to go back to what made them great and find a guy that isn't afraid to pass off roles. And I think that's what he's going to do. I think you can see Grant McCasland being the leader of the defense, but I would be entirely shocked if they don't hire an associate head coach or a high-level assistant that is offensive-minded and heavily at that, because you're going to need to correct that side of the floor. And I also think that there's guys that you can bring in, if you're Grant McCasland, that help you do that significantly, not only on the court and the player side, but also the coaching side. And again, I don't love the whole, hey, we have to stick with somebody that knows Texas Tech. I don't think that that's necessarily the case. But I do like it in this regard with Grant McCasland from the sheer standpoint of what Texas Tech did to get to those level of high success, and it was the defensive end. Grant McCasland has proven time and time again, albeit in Conference USA, that he can coach elite basketball teams on the defensive end. They can score a little bit. They don't have very many possessions, but I think that that probably changes a little bit. in the Big 12. I think that he goes and attacks the portal, goes and attacks the high school ranks, right? And makes sure that schematically on the offensive end, they're improving. I am excited about this hire for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, just his wherewithal and basketball IQ, but also the kind of guy he is. You hear, and I've talked to multiple people around the state that know these coaches much better than I do. And I ask them, hey, what do you think of Grant McCasland? There's never a bad word to say about the guy. He's a family man. He coaches a basketball team. That's what he is, but he is a family man at heart. And I think that that's something that will resonate in West Texas. Obviously, on-court success will be huge, right? But let's look at this. Again, they've been phenomenal on the defensive end. Offensively, they need to improve. They're 78th in the country when it comes to adjusted efficiency on the offensive end. But what they do in terms of holding opponents to just awful percentages. I mean, 30.5% from behind the arc. That ranks 20th best in the country. And then when it comes to inside the arc, 2-pointers, 44.5%, 8th best in the country. They hold teams to no points virtually and make everything difficult, right? Like, I get it. The pace of play was concerning to me. I watched a couple of their games, and one of them was just, I won't lie, it was brutal to watch just because of the pace of play. But I was like, you know what? Probably just a one-game thing in terms of how slow that was in dictating the pace, and they just didn't shoot well. Sure enough, the next game in the NIT, they score 75, right? The pieces are there offensively for them to do that. Now, I also think that, again, Grant McCasland is going to bring in that defensive side, but there will be a prominent hire for Texas Tech when it comes to who they hire on the offensive side of things, right? Whether that's the associate head coach or just a high-ranking assistant. I think that that's where Texas Tech will go with this. And I'm very, very interested to see the player side of it. But also, looking at this from a long-term point of view, I think it just brings stability, and that's something that Texas Tech desperately needs. You got a younger guy in McCasland. He's 46 years old, okay? You got a guy that can be here long-term. He loves the state of Texas. I don't think that can go unsaid. And then, arguably, one of the most important aspects of all of this is he's well-respected in the state of Texas. I know I brought that up, and a couple of people that I know, they had everything nice to say about him. But he's well-respected in the state, and that's huge for Texas Tech right now because you have to go out on the recruiting trail and you have to make something happen because the foundation that Texas Tech has right now is you still have a chance to be one of the best teams in the Big 12 moving forward with all the facilities, the donor backing, fan backing, everything. And now you have your head man and Grant McCasland. I'm excited to see it. I think the offense has changed a little bit. I've turned my opinion around on that front, but there's one thing you should be excited about. Defense will be back in the 806. I can promise you that with Grant McCasland. He is an absolute wizard when it comes to coaching on the defensive end. All right, going to wrap it up there. I'm RC Maxfield. Let me know down below one more time your one word to Grant McCasland being hired as the next Texas Tech head men's basketball coach. And hey, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Nobody else is giving you breaking news videos like this on YouTube for Texas Tech, and join the largest Texas Tech fan community right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.